Blasphemy laws for criticizing Muhammad are based on Muhammad's response to critics. He ordered his followers to kill them. Let's look at a few examples in Ibn Ishaq, pages 550 to 551. This passage is about Muhammad conquering Mecca. The apostle had instructed his commanders when they entered Mecca only to fight those who resisted them, except a small number who were to be killed even if they were found beneath the curtains of the Kaaba. And we have a list of some of the people who had to be killed, along with their crimes. Another was Abdullah bin Qatal of Banu Taym bin Ghalib. He had become a Muslim, and the apostle sent him to collect the poor tax in company with one of the Ansar. He had with him a freed slave who served him. He was a Muslim. When they halted, he ordered the latter to kill a goat for him and prepare some food, and went to sleep. When he woke up, the man had done nothing, so he attacked and killed him and apostatized. This guy was sentenced to death because he was a murderer and an apostate. But look at who's next on Muhammad's death list. He had two singing girls, Fartana and her friend, who used to sing satirical songs about the apostle, so he ordered that they should be killed with him. Muhammad sentenced these girls to death for making fun of him. Another was Al-Huwayrith bin Nukayd bin Wahab bin Abd bin Qusay, one of those who used to insult him in Mecca. A little farther down the page we have, and Sarah, freed slave of one of the Banu Abdul Muttalib. Sarah had insulted him in Mecca. So, Muhammad repeatedly ordered his followers to execute people for making fun of him. Notice, however, that the passage doesn't say how these people insulted Muhammad. It didn't really matter. If you insulted Muhammad, you had to die. This is why it became the rule under Sharia to execute people who insult Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum and hello to my non-Muslim viewers. David Wood, the same David Wood, tried to kill his father with a hammer and was put into a mental hospital by his mother, says that there's penalty for calling Muhammad black in Islam, and he says that this is Sharia in Islam. So this is the first video. This is one out of two. This is the first video this is the first of two videos where I refute the idea that the penalty for calling Muhammad black is death in Sharia in Islam. So the sources he cites for the blasphemy laws in Islam, where the Prophet Muhammad executed his critics or people who made fun of him or whatever, would be this book, The Life of Muhammad, a translation of Ibn Ishaq Sirah Rasulullah by Alfred Guillaume. On pages 550 to 551, he says that the Prophet Muhammad, again, this is from this book, he says that the Prophet Muhammad killed people for making fun of him or criticizing him. And David Wood says this is Sharia, this is the Sharia in Islam. Whoever makes fun of the Prophet Muhammad, they are to be killed. So just looking into those sources, we need to see if those sources are authentic or not. So if we go to page 550, we see that there's no isnad, or there's no chain of transmission for that story in Ibn Ishaq, page 550, and pages 551, where he says that people were killed, that Abdullah ibn Qatal was killed for making fun of the Prophet Muhammad, and then he states that Abdullah ibn Qatal had two singing girls, Fatra and her friend, who used to sing satirical songs about the apostle, so in order that they be killed with him. So I looked at the isnad, or the chain of transmission, because remember, in Islam, every hadith or every story about the Prophet Muhammad or any other Islamic figure needs a isnad, or a reliable chain of transmission. And I looked for that reliable chain of transmission. There is no chain of transmission for the story, so the story is not authentic according to Islamic standards. Then he says that Sarah insulted the Prophet Muhammad in Mecca, and he ordered that she be killed. And this is found on Ibn Ishaq, page 51. And again, there's no it's not, or there's no chain of transmission verifying the story. So these stories are false. They're weak. Anyways, they're not authentic according to Islamic standards, because Ibn Ishaq, this book which he's citing from, is not authentic. It's a weak source anyways. Muslim scholars don't accept it. So the assassination stories, where he says the Prophet Muhammad killed people for making fun of him, found on page Ibn Ishaq, pages 550 and 551, are false, because there's no reliable chain of transmission for it, and it comes from a weak source. Again, he's citing from this source, The Life of Muhammad, the translation of Ibn Ishaq Sirah Rasulullah by Al-Qiyam, which is a weak source according to Muslim standards, according to Muslim scholars. Then he says that blasphemy, that the Sharia in Islam, or Islamic law, calls for the people who insult Islam or the Prophet Muhammad to be killed. So it says that whoever, according to Sharia law, whoever insults Islam or the Prophet Muhammad, they are to be killed. Now, of course, he doesn't cite any kind of Islamic law or any kind of hadith backing this up. He doesn't cite anything. But even if this is true, even if Sharia in Islam calls for people to be killed for insulting Islam or insulting the Prophet Muhammad, this is to stop warmongering. So it's not just to stop people from insulting Islam or the Prophet Muhammad because Islam or the Prophet Muhammad had a big ego or whatever. No, it's because the people who insult Islam are actually warmongering against Islam. So even if that Sharia law is true, even if he cites sources that say authentic sources that say it's true, it's because it's to stop people from warmongering against Islam. It's to stop people from because people who insult Islam or the Prophet Muhammad back then were warmongers. They would instigate people to go to war against Muslims, the early Muslims, or first or second generation Muslims. So that's why. So even if that's true, that Sharia in Islam calls for death for blasphemers or death for critics of Islam or the Prophet Muhammad, it's to stop them from warmongering or creating a corruption or creating some kind of warmongering to attack Muslims. Just like America will execute spies, or do the death penalty for spies or whatever, or Europe would execute spies sent to their nation and stuff like that, to protect the nation from enemy countries instigating war against America or Europe or whatever. Same thing here. These blasphemy, this Sharia in Islam, even if Sharia in Islam, even if David Wood doesn't cite any sources, but even if that's true, it's to stop them from warmongering against Islam, or it's to stop them from instigating violence against Muslims in Islam. So it's a self-defense tactic. It's not just, Prophet Muhammad had a big ego and he didn't want people insulting him back in his time or in future times. No, it's to stop them from doing warmongering, if it's true. David Wood doesn't cite any sources, but even if he does cite a source that's authentic, I'm giving you the historical context behind why Sharia in Islam allows killing those who insult Islam or the Prophet Muhammad, if it's true, if what he's saying is true anyways. David Wood lies a lot, so I don't know if this is true or not, but even if it's true, I'm providing you the historical context behind, or giving you the reasons why Sharia in Islam calls for that specific action. And this is the first video. The second video will be released soon, whenever I have time. Thanks all.